What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to this week's Cop the Week. As you can see, we have another fresh-faced youngster on the panel with us. I'm not talking about Mr. Steve Bland, who is looking very healthy. I'm, of course, talking about Mr. James Redmond. James, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm made up to be. I was just saying, Steve's putting us to shame here, Craig. Do you know what I mean? With his nice tan, looking fresh. I'm over here looking just as pale as anything. But we move. It's great to be here. First appearance on the channel. Make sure you smash your like, people. Subscribe as always. And it's great to be here, Craig. So thank you very much for getting me on the channel. Big up to the community of this channel as well, because it's phenomenal. When I'm tuning into the watch-alongs, it's great to see the way people interact in the chat and whatnot. And yeah, lads, just it was inevitable, like Mo Salah, inevitable.
I love it. I don't know where to go with that, but I absolutely fucking love it, James. Well played. And Mr. Bland, yeah. Number 5 for London Marathon's up for you yesterday, my man.
Yes,
congratulations,
mate.
Sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was good fun actually. The crowds were out. It was buzzing to finish, and I reckon 5 and out. Yeah, 5 might be my last. Well, I've definitely said that before, though, so, who knows? Who knows?
Steve, how long was the marathon?
26.2 miles. 42 kilometres, if you want to go in kilometres.
Mate, I get tired driving that.
It is a long way. Do you know what's hard? When you've done like 10, 15 miles, 30 kilometres, say, and you've still got another 10 miles to go. I've got places that are 26 miles away. There are places 26 miles away from me that I think they're too far to drive to. Let alone to run to.
No, I was just gonna, Steve. I was just gonna say, let alone being tired, but because of course that takes mega fitness. That being said, even mental, once you get into, well, I'd be getting to 5 and I'd be thinking these thoughts, but you must be getting to 10, 15 and thinking, wow, then it's got to be just mental game.
Yeah, but you know what? Then the crowd kicks in. Crowd at London is unbelievable. Keeping you going. You got your name on your vest, so everyone's calling your name, and when you look tired, people are saying, go on, Steve, you can do it, you can do it. Honestly, that pulls you through. It's as close as I'll ever get to being, on a football pitch in front of a stadium. There's so many people shouting your name, cheering for you. And they honestly, it's a real cliche, but they just pick you up and carry you along. And then you got the kind of the thought of the people sponsoring you and everyone backing you, and the reason why you're doing it, and the charities that everyone's raising money for. And it's just, honestly, I know it feels like to a lot of people like they could never do it, but honestly, I recommend it to anybody. There are people of all shapes and sizes, all ages, everything. Everybody, is doing it, and they take as long as they want. There was a sign, a big sign someone had written on a big piece of cardboard as I run along, and it said, "There's no time limit on greatness." So it's not about how long you do it; it's about just doing it and raising your money, having that experience, and ticking the box, and it's fantastic.
Well done, Steve. And look, man, I thought I was a legend. I walked up the stairs to the top flight of the Spurs Stadium when I was going to the AJ fight. I had to take a little break, mate. You know what I mean? Not even up a few flights of stairs, and I'm waiting for a round of applause. So I can only imagine what it was like doing that.
It was good fun, mate. Yeah. Glad to have it done.
There was another epic event yesterday as well at Anfield, and I think it's fair to say probably a fair result, James. What do you reckon?
It's fair. It's fair. If I'm a City fan, I'm not leaving that game thinking, oh, we got battered. Absolutely not. Because the thing is, the first half they dominated us. We showed barely any threat at all. It was a terrible performance, especially from my perspective in the Klopp. It was just frustrating. In the Klopp, it was just frustrating. We couldn't string 5 passes together. We couldn't get into their half. I think the only chance we did have was a Salah block. And then the second half, you take the lead twice, of course, but then, we're all saying it's a game of 2 halves. At the end of the day, City, in what wasn't their half, still was able to capitalise and get 2 goals, and it shows the testament to their squad depth. But on top of that, it just showed it was a repeat of us being lackadaisical. Big word for me defensively. At the end of the day, boys, a City draw is never that bad. But when you put the Brentford results in to factor in, and the fact that we dropped points in that game, we took the lead twice also, it is a big. It does feel more like 2 points dropped than a point gained. I'll say that for sure.
Did anybody hear the absolute bollocks that Noel Gallagher was coming out with, by the way? And I will get into the obligatory Manscaped ad read in a second, but I don't know. He said basically they won the game because they had the better of the first half. So by his reckoning, that means they basically won the game. The league table doesn't care what Noel has to say.
They never scored, you know what I mean? So, I don't know how he's worked out that logic, but fair play, no, lad.
I'm with James. I mean, you know, you just don't lose these games, do you? If you can win them,
and
you're
it's
great.
At Anfield, isn't it, Steve? You know, it's not like we're at the Etihad and we're going back to Anfield.
Yeah, but you know, they're a top side, though, aren't they? They're a really, really, really good side, and I know. You know, we had the Fabinho chance at the end, and I know you took the lead twice, and I know it all feels a bit like, you know, 2017, and it's all a bit hell for leather at the moment, and we've sort of lost a bit of that composure, you know, that ability to control a game once we're ahead. You know, we've seen that over the last couple of weeks, but you know, probably most of us, if we're being very honest, would have probably taken a draw behind before the game. You just don't want to lose these games. It's so important, you know, not to give your rivals, you know, a 3-point jump on you. So, yeah. And then you took in, you know, the fact that we were so far off the pace in the first half, and then, you know, like you say, you know, there isn't one City fan go away from that game thinking they were lucky. Yeah, they'll all be thinking that's a game we should have, you know, been 2 up, you know, 3 up at half time. Such was their dominance, and then, you know, I'm sure we'll get into James Milner. I mean, it takes a very blinkered Liverpool fan to think that he shouldn't have been sent off, doesn't it? I mean, I think he was very, very, very fortunate. You know, I don't know what the reason. I'm not taking the first one was, you know, you could sort of get that, but that second booking trip in Bernardo Silva was, I mean, we'd have been baying for it, wouldn't we, if it was the other way around? So, you know, all in all, you know, we'll take it and move on.
I think it's fair to say the referee hadn't got the balls to do it. And speaking of balls, Steve, you can see where I'm going with this one. Straight in, boom. Slick, pro. Footy is back, ladies and gentlemen. The referee might not have had the balls to do it yesterday and send James Milner off, but we know that I suffer with beans, big Irish nut syndrome, ladies and gentlemen. And you can join myself and the 2 other million men around the world who use Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 or the Performance Package 4.0 for all of their male grooming needs. I grew up and didn't even know males had grooming needs, I'll be honest with you. But now, nuts are shiny, nuts are toned, nuts have deodorant. What more do you want, ladies and gentlemen? Get over to manscaped.com. Use the discount code WFM20 and your bald will absolutely thank you later. You know the goodies all at this point. You get the Performance Package, you get the Weed Whacker, you get the Lawn Mower 4.0, you get the ball deodorant, the ball toner, the goodie bag, the boxer briefs. What more do you want, ladies and gentlemen? 20% off, you say? Done. Free shipping? Done. Manscaped.com, WFM20. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for the segue. And look, I want to talk about everything around the game yesterday, but James, give me a few words on Mo, mate. Give me a few words on that goal, because it was shades of Spurs 2018.
Sexy, majestic, amazing, boss. See, my vocabulary is very, very narrow, and there are just a few words that are springing to mind, and I'm going to use the very limited vocabulary that I have on my disposal to describe that goal and that player. Mo Salah, boys, is a joke, and it's just, you know, I put a very big argument that he's the second greatest player in the Premier League era to have played for this team and to wear the Liverpool shirt. If not, then he's there and thereabouts, because without that man, you think about last season, we don't get top 4 without Mohamed Salah. Them amazing nights like AC Milan, for example, that doesn't happen without Mo Salah. On top of that, he's got, 9 goals in 10. Something stupid, 4 assists, and he's doing it in the big games. He's a big game player. It's not just he's not just good. You know, we talk about Harry Kane. He's very, very good, but when it gets to the big games, the Champions League finals, the top 6 games, he kind of fades away. Same with Lukaku, who's had tendencies as well. Name me one side to Mo Salah's game, because he gets better every season. You know, 3 seasons ago, there's holes in Mo Salah's game. Now, he does the track and back. He creates the goals. He scores the goals. Yesterday, with Mo Salah when Mane scored, he starts that goal from our half with some great 1-2 link-up play from Fabinho, and then bombing down the wing, cutting inside, and then finding Mane, passing the ball at the perfect time. That shows to me someone who is only getting smarter. That doesn't show that there's zero signs that he's slowing down. The physique on the man is insane, and the reason why I bring up the fact the man has got 12 packs and fucking muscles is based on the fact that you can see it in his game. You can see the fact that he's just we talk about Ronaldo, for example, being such a physical specimen at his age. Salah is aiming to get that because he turns up late to the party. You know what I mean? He weren't doing it when he was 20 and 21. He turns up late, and now to solidify his greatness, he knows he has to make sure that he's on top of his game. And season on season, he's only getting better. And I think, that first season is very hard to compare to because it was so good. But this season, it's going to be very close to it, mate. And with Mo Salah, our title chances is all the more. That goal was insane as well. You would have heard it so much over the past 24 hours, but one of the best goals I've ever seen from Mo Salah. But he does have that in his locker. Steve,
that little drag back in such a tight area. I mean, what James spoke about was spot on. We can absolutely talk about the first goal, and we will, but I have to kick off with the second one, mate. How did he do it? I mean, it's ridiculous.
You know what? It's a really good point James makes, actually. And he is actually getting better, isn't he? We saw 5 years ago when he joined, he was this, he was so fast over 10, 20 yards. He was a good finisher, but he still missed quite a few, didn't he? Maybe didn't do the tracking back, wasn't as creative. I don't know the numbers, but, I wouldn't imagine he had quite so many assists this season. And, a bit of last season wasn't so good, but I think we've seen it, particularly this season. Like everything's coming together. He's just a better all-round footballer, isn't he? He's tracking back. He's approaching 30, so maybe he isn't as quick as he was 4 or 5 years ago. But he doesn't need it anymore. He's cleverer, and he's a better finisher, and he just gets hungrier and hungrier and hungrier for goals. See how pissed off he gets when he doesn't score. I'll tell you one thing as well. This season, he looks like he's loving it as well, doesn't he? He looks like there's fire in his eyes. When he scores, like you just see it in his face.
He wants it. He actually wants it.
He does,
more
doesn't
than
he?
Anybody else
and you can see it on his social media as well. He's putting stuff on his social media about it all. And you go back like 3 or 4 years ago. I remember a game at Bournemouth, and he scored a hat trick in his third goal, and he looked like he wasn't bothered. I'm sure he was, but he didn't have that in his eyes. He wasn't. He just looks. He looks pumped up in every possible way at the moment, and I think. We've said it before on this show and in the podcast as well. I think we're all a bit guilty of taking him for granted, aren't we, over the past few years? And going back 3 or 4 years, we were all asked the question. We're all thinking about the question: who would you, if you had to sell one, who would it be? And a lot of people would have said Mo Salah, wouldn't they, 3 or 4 years ago, even 2 or 3 years ago, because we all love Bobby Firmino. We all love Sadio Mane, and Mo Salah. For some reason, didn't get the adulation that maybe he deserved, and he's just sensational. I think even going back 12 months, we probably would say, we had conversations on this, but we said, do we chuck 350 grand at a 29, 30-year-old? Well, the answer is absolutely we do, isn't it? Like without question, without any question, and I saw the Athletic did a piece the other day, didn't they, saying, I only saw like the headline or a tweet or something, but it was, that Salah wants to stay, obviously, but he's there's a bit of annoyance at how long it's taken, and I think, there's absolutely. I mean, you won't find a Liverpool supporter that thinks any different anymore. Well, there's no ambiguity, there's no question, there's no divisive, there's no sort of divided two camps on this. There's no people that don't rate him anymore. It's 100%. We've arguably got the best player in the world in our.
Even neutrals are starting to realise
it,
Steve. Even,
they are, aren't they? That's it. Yeah, people are starting to, like you say, people that have, given a bit of stick for being selfish or for diving, or we don't see that anymore, do we? We just see people recognising him for being as good as he is.
I think what you're talking about was, I think he referenced, or his camp referenced, how quickly the De Bruyne incident was sorted out and how quickly his contract was sorted out. Look, James, we do have a wage structure at the club, mate, but if we are ever going to break it for somebody, I don't know what more a human being can do to convince the hierarchy, mate, that he deserves 350 to 400 grand a week, or to be paid what he would get elsewhere. Let's be honest about it. He could walk into PSG tomorrow and get that wage.
Well, Craig, do you know what we need to do to the wage structure? Hasta la vista, baby. We're not in the 90s no more. We're not in the 90s, you know. We've got to adapt to the times. We're in a world where, you know, Manchester United's and Chelsea's and whatnot, they're playing multiple players, that type of money. So at the end of the day, when you look at our club and the situation that we're in, I'm not saying go ahead and pay everyone that, but this isn't just anyone. And I'm not trying to just cut no mad promo, but Mo Salah, in his own right, he has got the individual accolades, he has got the, you know, Steven Gerrard, we talk about the fact that he's our greatest ever Premier League player, one of the greatest, if not the greatest to ever grace the club, but he hasn't got that Premier League. Salah's got the trophies. He's got the trophies, he's got the individual accolades, and he's still doing it. He's still doing it to this day. You even talk about off the pitch, we talk about finances. Who contributes to more shirt sales than Mo Salah in this team? You know, even and not even just in this team, in the world. You know, you talk about the Ronaldos, you talk about Messi. You can even put Human Son in there because he's massive in the part of the world where he comes from. Mo Salah, we talk about him as the king. That's literally what he's looked at as. He's a representation. You know, he's the number one Muslim athlete that there is. That's huge to have at your disposal just in itself. But then when you correlate that over to his on-pitch performances and the fact it's impacting us in a positive way each season. You know, we heard about this one season wonder, unless one season equals 5, then yeah, maybe you're right. But it's not the case though, bro. He just keeps going. It's non-stop, and we are all the more of, not just a better team. You know, you talk about...
James, you're definitely negotiating my next fucking sponsorship deal, by the way.
I just make sure whatever points I make, I can back it up. Because Steve said it perfectly 2 years ago, and everyone knows I'm the Mane guy. I'm the Mane guy. So in Liverpool, I get quite a bit of attention saying, oh my God, there's the Sadio Mane kid. And then 2 years ago, loads of people are saying to me, James, you're actually right. Mane's ended up being our most dangerous player. He does this. And everything we praised Mo Salah for, Mane was doing. Salah is now doing that times 2. So when you've got that, that's a dangerous monster to have. So I think you do pay him the 300 to 350 grand a week because it's warranted, and there's no signs that he's slowing down. So there's no downside.
As James has said there, Steve, and I think he's very eloquently got it across. He ticks every box. Doing it on the pitch, doing it from a global marketing perspective, got a great reach. He's a tremendous face for the football club. He's a tremendous face for his own country, his own continent, his own religion. There is no more that I think one person can do to justify maybe breaking this wage structure. And look, of course, we have to be careful, as James said. We can't just go out throwing money, good money after bad. But, you know, the whole philosophy has been bring guys in, turn them into superstars, and keep them at the football club.
I mean, that's changed, hasn't it, over the last 2 or 3 years? We saw, you know, Coutinho left because, you know, he wanted to move to the next level. There is now not a next level. Yeah, there isn't a next level, is it? You know, he can't go anywhere where he's going to get. And we saw on Sunday. We saw 2 teams that are arguably the best 2 teams in Europe, really, didn't we? You know, definitely the best 2 teams in the Premier League by an absolute distance, and arguably the best 2 teams in Europe. And I think you know, there isn't anywhere for him to go where he's going to get, you know, adored more. You know, probably 2 or 3 years ago could have said, you know, he wasn't getting the adulation he deserved, but now. You know, he just adored. And it's a really good point, actually, James makes about you know, his sort of global appeal. We overlook that, don't we? Because we look at people like Ronaldo and Messi and, you know, these massive names. He is absolutely in that category, particularly with his religion. You know, the fact that he's an African player, his numbers, as far as African players go, you know, off the scale now, aren't they? So, yeah, look, I mean, you ask that what more he can do. I don't think there's a Liverpool supporter that would say there's any more he can do. You know, I include everyone at the club in that as well. You can't imagine that anybody who holds the purse strings at Liverpool is looking at that and thinking, you know, I don't really know if he's worth what he's asking for. You know, because he's that important. And
but we know why this is we know why this is happening, though, don't we, though, boys? Like, Craig, we know why. This is, you know, being prolonged by FSG. It's because they want to try and just squeeze. They want to try and lower that as much as they can. They're businessmen. This is the way they run. So if Salah wants 350, they're probably going to want him to be on maybe 300. Do you get what I'm saying? But still,
the worry, James, for me has always been the PSG situation with Mbappe, because you know, they look like they're going to lose Mbappe. They keep telling the world he's going to sign a new deal, but the words coming out of his mouth are different. Yeah. So if he moves off to Real Madrid, There's only one club around right now that could probably financially maybe turn his head, because City aren't going to come in from Real, and Barca probably haven't got not the money in Real sense, but they want Haaland and Mbappe. So with regards to Salah, for me, man, I want him tied down before we get to January.
Do it fast. Do it as fast as possible. Get on it. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you now, mate, if you lose that player to PSG, not only are you strengthening someone else for the Champions League, you're also really weakening our side. And I don't know what's harder to replace, defence or goals. There's definitely a debate for that, but it's still hard to replace the goals that Mo Salah will give you. It's just a fact. I don't want to hear nothing about him being a tapping merchant or whatever. He's proven now that he's more than that. There's way more to his game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've just, you've got to give him what he wants. And again, I don't want to hear this thing about, but what about if other players start wanting more? They have to earn it. Do you like the way you have to earn game time? I don't care if you're Sadio Mane. If you're not playing well, you've got to be bench. Same if you know about money. If you are actually putting in the performances, and guys, we're not saying Salah should get this much money after just this season's form. He's been doing it for 4 or 5 seasons. This is 5th season now for Liverpool. We know what we're getting. It's just smart. It would be stupid not to.
We're going to look back on this man's time at the football club, Steve, in the same way we look back at Gerrard, the same way we look back at Sir Kenny Dalglish, the same way we look back at all the greats, you know, Emlyn Hughes, everybody that's represented Liverpool to the level that this guy has. He's a modern day great. You know, he's probably very unlucky to be in a world where Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo are still playing football right now. So if they weren't around, we would be talking about this man probably winning a couple of Ballon d'Ors back to back.
100%. And the way he started, who'd be betting against him winning it this year? Messi's not pulling up any trees. Ronaldo, United aren't going to win the league, are they? So, I'm selling it. Take that, Craig, eh?
Take any compliment, mate. It's better than, the abuse, so we'll take it.
Yeah, no,
and by abuse, I mean from you, by the way. People don't know. People think Steve's a nice guy. Off camera, it's a different story.
I got called obnoxious the other week, didn't I?
You? Obnoxious? You?
What, on here, didn't I?
Oh, yeah. How?
I was disagreeing with somebody. I don't know. Yeah, who knows?
That's just what people are like. If you have a different opinion, then you're a knobhead, you're obnoxious,
exactly.
It's whatever it may be.
I am fully on the Mo Salah train, and I think
choo
like
choo,
I said,
motherfuckers, we're all aboard. You know what I mean? Choo,
but like I said, like a year ago,
choo, I love it. Choo, triple chew for Bellingham.
Well, let's not. Oh, James, you've not been.
He thought he was going to get a show where I didn't talk about Jude Bellingham.
You've not been exposed to Craig, many trains.
Always this another train? Is it the Jude Bellingham Express? Is that what we're talking about?
It is a fucking express. You're right, James.
And I'm on that
Anfield.
Listen, once I get off, well, I'm never going to get off the Salah train. But if I can get a twin brother, I'll get him to jump on that Jude Bellingham train, mate. Don't you worry.
Did you not notice his little love note to Hendo, his little well done, mate, on hitting 400?
I did see
his
that.
Appearances for the Reds and all. He loves a bit of Liverpool, does Jude.
And
look,
he
knows. He knows. I'm telling you, he's got. I don't know how we pay for him. That's a whole another conversation, and I'm leaving that. I'm not touching that one, but
we sell Mo Salah and get no.
Yeah. Honestly, boys, do you know what? Actually, sorry, Craig, to interrupt you. Not to get into a whole Bellingham conversation, but the only way we do bring
for
me anytime soon is the only way we do replace actually a big player anytime soon is by letting someone big go. That's the only thing I see. So it's like from FSG's standpoint, they could just be thinking, well, if worst case comes to worst and Salah does go, that's when we can finally go out and spend some big money and try and please the fans again. But otherwise, I just don't see big moves like that happening. Just don't think that's how we run.
Oh, James, you're killing it. You're absolutely killing him.
I'm killing it.
He's distraught. Look at him.
I'm devoted as it is. I am honestly as devoted as it is that we never saw anything in the summer, but there's just no evidence there.
Craig was absolutely sure that Mbappe and Bellingham were coming in the summer. That was.
Craig, I'm sorry, mate. I don't know. I don't want to ruin your dreams.
I don't remember the Mbappe one, to be honest with you. Too.
You don't remember that one, you don't remember Mbappe, no.
No, it doesn't ring any bells, mate.
It's definitely more likely for one.
It was a year ago yesterday as well, I think, that we lost 7-2 to Villa, so that flashed up on my highlight reel, and I was
that's mad, isn't it? That's mad.
How's that been a year? Look, before we move on to talk about Sadio Mane, I just want to say again, as you probably were aware at the start of the stream, Steve did run the London Marathon for the 5th time yesterday. Steve's sponsorship details are in the description of the stream. Raising money, obviously, Steve, for a really good cause, mate. We're damn proud of you because I ain't running any marathons anytime soon. So all the information is in the link in the description of the stream. So please do support Steve very much, and pal. Great work Macmillan Cancer Research do as well.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Here's a super chat from Philip. He said, big up, lads. What's your strategy for the rest of the season? Our midfield look knackered. What should we prioritise? And I'll come to you first on that one, James, because first half in particular, mate, we were overrun in midfield. We just didn't get a kick of the ball, mate. I love Curtis Jones. Love him to bits, and there's no doubt about his talent. But yesterday, I think that's a fair comment. We did look a little bit overrun at times, and he's not going to come up against, or we won't come up against, much better midfields than that Manchester City midfield, in fairness. But, yeah, what's the plan, do you think, for the rest of the season midfield-wise?
It's one of them, mate. Like, I think in a lot of games the midfield has looked great, and then in the past 2 games it's looked very shaky, and there is moments where we do get caught out, and I just think that has to do with the style of play. I think one thing we've saw with Liverpool over the seasons, they like to change it up, you know what I mean? It's not like we like to just stick with one thing. We don't want to get caught out. So for example, 18-19, we were more of an attacking side, so we would maybe concede a few more. We'd still had a great defence, don't get me wrong, but we would still be sacrificed to conceding maybe 1-2 goals. That being said, we'd outscored them by scoring 3 or 4. Then the next season when we won the league, it was more 2-0, 2-1s, 1-0s, them type of results, very, very close. It'd get into the last 10 minutes and maybe we'd get a goal, and then we'd scrape it that way, but that was also very effective. But defensively, we were amazing. Now, with the centre-backs just coming back, and obviously with the attacking prowess that we have, the lack of... people forget as well, with the fact we had centre-back problems, but last season, there was a goal drought there. There was a moment where, without Mo Salah, there was literally no other goals in the team. It weren't coming from the midfield, or Mane or Firmino, and of course, Jota had it as well. Now, you're in a position where, if you change it up, it might not be perfect, but I do think as the season goes by, it's going to be more polished. I know we have this thing about our midfield being knackered, but I think Henderson overall has had a good season. Fabinho overall has had a very good season. Over the last 2 games, there's a lot of players who can really sort of... You'd have to sit back and think about their performances, basically what I'm trying to say. But overall, I don't think that's too much to worry about. And just my final point, Klopp did say at the start of the season that he wasn't expecting us to be gung-ho straight away, and we was. He wanted to build us into the season, so when it gets to October, November, we can build a run, because it's them runs, like City last season with the 20-game winning streak, that go ahead and they win you league titles. So I am just seeing this as an effective strategy. There's times in games where we do stay back, but I do believe as the season goes by, them holes will be filled.
Steve, I think we look so much better with Hendo on the right. As great as it was, by the way, to have Harvey there, and it will be great to have him back as another option, but the balance in the team just looks a little bit stronger to me when Hendo's on the right and you've got Jones, Thiago, or Keita on the left.
I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw it, didn't we? What was the game? What was the game that we spoke... After the game, we spoke about it. It was the first one that he'd come in and played on the left of the 3. I don't know what game it was. Was it Leeds? It wasn't Leeds, was it? It was anyway, whatever it was. Yeah, fully agree. I mean, he doesn't look happy at all on the left. He doesn't really know his role. And he has that relationship with Trent on the right, doesn't he? Where they fill in for each other, and he covers when Trent bombs on, and they have that good relationship, good little understanding. So yeah, fully agree. I'm not fussed about the midfield. The midfield is absolutely fine. We haven't, as a team, we haven't controlled the last 2 games. The City one you can sort of take out of the equation, because that's such a good team. You know, I mean, if we finish above City this season, we'll win the league. Absolutely, no question. That has such a good side. And in terms of midfield as well, it must be an absolute nightmare playing in the middle of midfield against Man City. They've got like 6 midfielders in there, haven't they? 3 normal ones, but then the 3 forwards are pretty much midfielders as well. And it must be nightmare to get a kick. So yeah, I'm not fussed. And I think the Brentford one, we just didn't really control it. But I think there's other options to come in. We saw Keita can come in. Oxlade-Chamberlain is probably due a little run. If he starts rotating a little bit. Obviously, Thiago isn't too far away from being fit as well. So yeah, I'm not fussed. And also, he's got the option of doing playing 4-2-3-1, isn't he? if he wants to bring, we saw that a few times last season. City away was a really good example of where it can work, where Fabinho and Henderson played as a two, and then the 4-4 played in front of them. So yeah, I'm not fussed at all. I think the last two games, last season when it was all going wrong, we definitely would have lost those last two games, 100%. Whereas the year we won the league before that, we were the games where we weren't perhaps on it, we were grinding it out, and we were not getting beat or nicking a last minute winner or something. So yeah, I think the signs are really positive. I'm not too fussed about the midfield. That'll figure itself out.
I loved hearing it. Actually, this is a really funny thing. I think Jeff thinks I'm going to shave 250 pairs of balls. I mean, the battery's good. I don't know if it'll last quite that long. I'm one, Jeff. But I do a lot of stuff for charity, mate. But I ain't shaving 250 pairs of another man's nuts. We can put that one to bed.
That'd be good there. Like, I'm sweet.
It sounds like Conor Crosby work to me. I don't know.
If you do, I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not got content written all over it, does it? Speaking about the start of the season, lads, one thing that keeps ringing around in my ears is when we spoke to James Pearce, and he said that when he spoke to the squad before the season, they felt like they've been written off unfairly, James, and that they know what went wrong last season. We know we lost the spine of the team for a good chunk of the season, and they've come out firing. And I've loved, by the way, seeing Kostas Tsimikas really pushing Robbo at left back as well, because we need that.
Yes, 100%. That has been the number one issue ever since before, but like since we've been competing for trophies, the Champions League final, where Salah went off and then obviously Lallana had to come on, and that just weren't enough firepower. There's not enough firepower in this squad. Now, you look defensively, we've got the centre-back covered, right back, not necessarily, but if you can try and find Gomez as maybe a new sort of backup right back as well, then that is not a bad option. But then when you talk about Tsimikas, that is somebody who I look at and I think, you know what, mate, you're earning your place in the squad. Even if you're not starting week in, week out, because Robbo is still doing his job, as long as you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to knock on that door. And as a Liverpool player, that's what you need to do. You look at the front three as well. Diogo Jota, the breath of fresh air that we needed when we signed him, because you need to push that front three. You need to. Yeah, and here's the thing. Right now, when you look at our front three, the two players that should be in question for starting, for me at least, and feel free to disagree, everyone in the chat, but Mane and Firmino, Jota and Salah, for me, have got to have their places guaranteed. And I know Jota has had a few below par games himself, but he's still been, in my opinion, more effective. Now, Mane has also started picking up performances, but I just think Jota's more inevitable at the moment. And it wouldn't be right, it wouldn't be the right plan for me to try and develop Jota's game by dropping him. I'd rather let him play through these slightly below par patches and try and find some momentum behind him, man, because we can see he's a good player. He's got two great feet, and that's what you need is squad depth, because we are Liverpool and we don't want to just go for one trophy. You know, you look at 18-19, we went for two. We went for the league and we went for the Champions League. We got one of them. As Liverpool, you should be hoping to compete on all fronts. The only way you do that is by having good squad depth. And even though ours isn't up there with the others, you still need to... It's still encouraging to see the likes of Jota's, Tsimikas, and even like Curtis Jones now really making a push for that first team.
I don't think it's... I said this in the summer, though. When people were clamouring for like new signings and stuff, it's really hard to get new signings in that improve this first 11. It's really hard. It's not as hard, but still hard to get a player that improves the squad, really. There you go. That'll do you.
I'll take that. I'll take that on the chin. I appreciate it.
That's why I brought it up, man. I was bringing it up as a compliment.
We beat Porto. Absolutely battered Porto in the week, and then we made 5 subs and brought on 5 really good, top quality players.
We've got a few players out, like Harvey Elliott, Thiago's out.
Canate didn't get on. Thiago's out. Keita. The problem isn't as big as people were making out in the summer. And of course, we wanted a 1 or 2 just to freshen things up. But it's still people have been saying it this week, haven't they? Heard Crouchy say it on telly when you compare first 11s when everyone's fit. Ours is as good, if not better, than anybody else. And I think the 5 or 6 that would come in to complement that are good as well. It's just perhaps when you get outside of the 16 or 17 or 18. Then you start to run into 1 or 2 problems. But yeah, I'm I saw the 5 subs that come on against Porto. I'm just thinking this is a squad and a half. You know, it's absolutely top quality.
But you know what though, Steve? One thing I'll have to question, like sort of, not call you out on, just basically, just give you my opinion on. Basically, it's just I do believe we should have went out and reinforced 1 or 2 players, and I don't think us as Liverpool fans were asking for direct first team replacements. But when you see, pardon me, when you see Klopp not really investing into Divock Origi, and also Gini Wijnaldum goes for free, like, then you haven't really got good options. You know, Shimaka's weren't really proven to that point. We didn't have a great backup right back, because can you always rely on James Milner to fill in that role? Neco Williams hasn't shown he's really good enough to fill that spot yet. And you talk about Joe Gomez and stuff, he's still got his injury problems, so he can't be our backup centre-back and backup right back. And we sit there and say that's great depth, because our depth is definitely better than what people give us credit for, and I think that's now being shown. Also, there was this notion that our squad was getting washed. Absolute bollocks. And even if it isn't as good as 2-3 seasons ago, that was a team that got 97 and 99 points back to back. That's a joke. There's not many teams that accumulate them amount of points in that space of time. So even if we did drop off just a tidgy widge, you're still chatting about 85 to 90 points, boys. 85 to 90 points, which gets you in a title race. That's what Liverpool should be in. So it's about giving yourself the best possible chance. And I totally agree. Phrase off Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
And it's about giving yourself the best possible chance. And I don't think FSG gave Klopp and the team the best possible chance of going on all fronts this season.
I totally agree. Like I said in the summer, you know, I wanted a number 9, like a proper number 9 as an alternative, like someone that was, Firmino and Jota, they like dropping off and getting involved. I wanted a proper, you know, like a better version of Divock Origi, like an actual good version of Divock Origi. You know, someone that's, you know, could like stretch it going behind, but also be a bit of a target man, a bit of a different option. A backup right back we could probably do with that as well. But yeah, I fully agree. This is what I do sometimes. I try and, yeah, a bit of devil's advocate, but
you're just obnoxious, Steve. Fuck's sake, man! You're just obnoxious now at this point.
I have to stop this. Yeah, stop doing that. But no, I do agree.
Mane lads in a minute, but I wanted, while we're talking about squad depth, I just wanted to get a little take on Divock Origi and Takumi Minamino, because I've been Divock's biggest critic. Last season, I thought he looked disinterested. I didn't think he wanted to be at the club. I thought this summer he was going to move on. But I have to say, hands up. When I've seen Divock this season, you know, we speak about the drop-off, and there is a drop-off from Mane, Salah, Firmino, Jota to these boys, but I'm starting to see a bit more from Divock, Steve. I don't know about you, but I'm a bit less nervy when he comes on now.
I'll be honest with you. I've never got that point of view that he didn't care. I see a guy that's probably not good enough, but I've never seen a guy that didn't want to put the effort in, or didn't want to run, didn't care. Like I've just never seen that, and yeah, Minamino, I think
Steve, man. I like Steve. You know, he always gives people the benefit of the doubt. I can see he's one of them people. Do you know what I mean?
I do. It's like, I do. We're too eager to criticise, I think, and I think I don't think he's good enough. You know, like Craig says, the drop off is too big. You know, what I think he's in a title-winning season, and the season before when we won the Champions League. Guys like him and Shaqiri are really good at coming into a team that is absolutely all guns blazing and firing. You know, they're okay when they're filling in little gaps, you know, filling holes for people that are missing in a team that overall is working. What we found last year, they're not good enough to come in and change a game when the team isn't firing. When we're losing a game, when the big players aren't playing, they're not good enough. But you know, it's quite possible this season, guys like Minamino and Origi are good enough to come in and complement a team, or just give someone a rest 1 week, because you know Salah's still going to score, because you know Jota's still going to play well, you know Fabinho's going to be what he is, you know the centre backs are going to do what they're doing, because that's how they're doing it again now. And I think we probably last season we were forced to rely on some of these backup players too much, and that's when we see they're not good enough.
It's a fair point. And look, let's get around to Sadio Mane, the elephant in the room, so to speak. And look, James, we know you love a bit of Sadio Mane,
don't
mate.
Break
we
me
know
heart,
you do.
mate. Don't break me heart. Fucking hell. Come on, just do it. Just shoot me already, will you?
If you listen really carefully,
any longer.
You'll hear James's heart stopping to beat now any second. Hang on. Just waiting to hit. Yeah, no, he's gone. He's gone. James is gone. Look, on Sadio Mane, look, I love a bit of Sadio, and I still think he offers us something different and unique. There's nobody that can just skin a defender from a starting position like Sadio can. But the only issue I have with him, James, is his decision making. It's not about getting into the right areas. He's doing that. He's scoring some goals as well. He's chipping in on that front, but just his decision making is frustrating at times.
I couldn't agree more. And do you want me to tell you what I think his problem is right now? It's weird. I think Mane is, in terms of overall game, besides doing the actual job that he's meant to do, which is score goals and create goals, he's actually doing everything near enough right. And hear me out. He had 10 chances against Leeds. How do you get that many chances? And he's had loads of chances in other games as well. How do you get that many chances? You do that by creating space, finding space, and also trying to be effective within that. And when Salah does it, we see he's effective. That's why he's the most effective player in our team. Mane's issue. In the first couple of seasons, when I saw Mane being his most efficient, is when he didn't have as much time to think with his chances. For some reason, I think now people are more worrying about Mo Salah so much that it does give Mane more space, therefore more time to think, and therefore we see what happens. He misses more chances, he scuffs at them more. But if you see some of Mane's best goals, it's ones where it's instinctive, where it's got to be an instinctive finish and he's just got to put his foot through it. You know, the goal against Man City a couple of seasons ago where Salah puts the ball into him, or someone does, and he just hits it. It was a great finish, and a lot of his goals were like that. Now, he does get more time to think, and that's a part of his game that he needs to improve on, because it affects the team. When every chance you miss, it affects the team, and he doesn't just get half chances, he does get some very, very good chances and scuff them. That being said, I am seeing I don't want to sound like the Mane fanboy on here. I am seeing a better Sadio Mane game by game, and it's still not perfect, it's still not fully polished, but the reason why I touched on before out of Firmino and Mane, and the reason why I'd still edge Mane over Firmino is because I just do still think he offers that little bit more to the side that we need, that energy that Salah does bring, but Mane's just not bringing the same level of effectiveness. So I do agree, his decision making has to improve. If this does continue, by the time it gets to, not even in January, before that ideally, and he's still not, scoring goals on a consistent basis. But as of right now, I'm looking at Mane, he's got 5 goals this season, which is actually not too bad. If I said to you, Craig, 20 goals for Mane this season, taking into consideration Salah's going to get a lot of goals as well, you're probably taking that as well as many other Liverpool fans. You're thinking, wow, Mane must have done all right then. But it's just, the way Salah in his first season as well got about 40 goals, but he could have had about 100. No, exaggerating massively, but he genuinely could have had about 60. You know what I mean? Based on a lot of them big chances that he missed. I think that's Mane's issue.
I think he's thinking too much. He's a streaky player, isn't he? He's a streaky player, right? He goes on hot streaks, and then he'll drop off for 5 or 6 games. And there was a game about 3 years ago. It was against Everton, and he missed an absolute howler in the first half, I think it was. And I think either we drew the game or something. But he said after the game that miss had been playing on him, and I think that's what happens with him. I think it plays on his mind. He's a confidence player. That's what happens with really streaky players. They get on a really good roll where their confidence is up and they're scoring everything. They're scoring at every chance. They're looking dead sharp. You're making the runs, making good decisions, and then something will happen and they question themselves maybe, or you drop off a notch. And that's kind of where he is at the moment, where maybe he's not right exactly where we want him to be. But I don't see any sign of a slump, like a proper, over 30, any sign of, a deterioration or anything like that. I just think he's having and like James says, 5 goals, we'll take that this season, so far. I think he's, I'm actually amazed that people are even talking about it, to be honest. I don't think he'll score a couple in a game and he'll be back on it again. Like James says, he's getting a ton of chances, and that's the main thing. And he's getting them by his intelligence and his work rate and his pace and everything. So, yeah, not a problem.
Craig, not to take your role in the show, because I know you asked the question.
No, man, I want
Craig,
this to be a group effort.
I want to ask you a question, bro. And if Mane's form, as of right now, is to continue, when it gets to May and it's the end of the season, and it's still bad decision making. Would you then take the initiative taken into last season as well to maybe push him forward? Because if you have that any longer, then you're not really looking on much resale value, and I think that'd be the last year or two of his contract anyway. So I'd like to know what you think there.
I think him and Bobby Firmino are both playing for one contract, if I'm being honest with you. I think Salah's the one that the club want to tie down. I think if we're being realistic and honest with ourselves, we spoke laughingly about Bellingham and stuff earlier on, but if the club want to go about their business and rebuild to some extent with some younger, fresher faces, I feel like it's probably spot on to move on one of the guys. You know, it's not palatable for us as fans, but if we look at the business model and the way that FSG do things, if we could get, I don't know, what's a reasonable amount of money for Firmino or for Mane with 18 months left on the contract, or a year, let's say, in the summer. Because I actually don't imagine they'll move them on in January. But in the summer, 1 year to go, somebody says, here's, I don't know, 50 million quid for Sadio Mane. You know, that buys you a very, very good youngster from Europe, or goes a long way towards a Jude Bellingham, or a long way towards a Pedri, or Nicolo Barella, or whomever it might be. So I think there's going to be some unpalatable decisions, and I do think it's telling that there seems to be a pecking order where it's Mohamed Salah first, and rightly so, and then we'll see after that. So I think the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, James, and whoever gets the next contract, I think we might see the other one move on.
Do you know what?
I
Though,
won't see any one of them leave. To be honest, so it's like it's shite out the way. You know.
Do you know what?
It's like picking which one of your kids, isn't it? Like, it's horrible.
What foot do you want to chop off?
Two things, like one, like we could be talking in 5 weeks, and he scored 8 goals in 5 games, and all of a sudden he's top of the pecking order. He's that kind of player, isn't he? He could easily go on a hot streak. The other side to that is, of all of them, he's probably the one that will suffer with age. He's probably the one that relies on his pace a bit more than the rest. We talked earlier about how Salah's like evolved his game a little bit, and he's a bit cleverer, a bit cuter. He's not so about the pace anymore. Firmino never has been, as he. Jota it isn't really about the pace either, and he's dead young anyway, so it doesn't matter. But Mane, I think he's probably the one of the lot that they'll look at and say, is he going to see a drop off when he gets to 30, 31, 32? Yeah, and that's when you might get the decision.
Yeah, it's certainly some big decisions and unpalatable decisions, because look, whatever we say, as James said, we don't want any of the guys to leave. You know, we want Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino here. But if we look at the way FSG do business, James, I think it's probably fair to say, I'm expecting one of the guys to get sold next summer. And you know, I dare not be the one to pick who, but you know, I think I can see the likes of Bobby Firmino maybe, and someone said this to me before, Atletico Madrid, somewhere like that, perhaps, for the latter stage of his career. And I think Diogo
I never want to the way that you feel about Sadio Mane, I'm like that with Bobby Firmino.
Bobby's my favourite player, Steve. He's my favourite player.
I love him. And he's the one that will, you know, his brain won't go. His legs are not a problem. He's not about the pace or anything. He's going to be the same player in 5 years that he is now. There's absolutely zero reason to let him go, ever.
Because of his technical ability. No, do you know what? Yeah. I actually really do get that, you know, Craig. I actually really understand what he's saying there. Because the only thing that you need to question is, will he be as intense in 4 years' time or whatever? Otherwise, you know, that silkiness that he's got in his locker right now, you know, something that just us English don't have, but Brazilians do. Like, that doesn't go. You know what I mean? Like Ronaldinho in jail right now, he's still going to be able to do mad keepy-ups. You know what I mean? He'll still be able to hit the bar.
Which passport is he going to use, though?
God knows. Either way, whatever passport, he'll have a ball in hand, still doing round the world.
3 wives.
And looking amazing. yeah, 3 wives, whatever else it may be. A whole lot of package, let's just say that. And he can still do what he does. It's like I was saying it, you know, Craig, I've actually watched some of your content on Coutinho, and know you're not the biggest fan, so I won't go too much into it. That being said, like, do you know Coutinho was so happy to join back? Do you know that long shot that he's always had? Doesn't go. It just doesn't. And he's still gonna, like, if you can find a way to play to his strengths, and I'm not saying
I like this guy, Craig. I like this guy. We'll keep him.
I'm just sitting back waiting to unleash my argument.
He's talking my language.
I think Jota can do what Bobby does. I think Jota is very similar to Bobby Firmino in a lot of ways.
I disagree.
he might not have the flair, he might not have that little flick around the corner, but I love Jota's pressing, I love his work rate. It's the same reason I like the likes of Pedro Neto and stuff. There's a bit of snidiness there. I can see a Jurgen Klopp player there, and I can see a Jurgen Klopp player, what is he, 5 years younger than Bobby Firmino? So I'm guessing, and again, unpalatable decisions, nobody wants him to go, but I'm guessing it will be Firmino. If I was to just, speculate as to who gets the next contract, I'd say it's probably Sadio.
We still better sing a song if he does go, which we will, because that Bobby song is now legend.
I'm still singing the Genie song, man. I won't lie.
I mean, let's not talk about Bobby Firmino going.
I
thought we were in a good mood.
We're in a great mood, Steve, but sometimes you've got to talk. Listen, we're here to talk about the difficult conversations. That's what we do here on Anfield Agenda. But when you do talk about,
well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah, when you do talk about the Jotas and the Firminos and whatnot, like their songs are certified. But I am devoted the fact that I've been to every game since the pre-season games at Anfield this year, and not once have I heard the Genie song being bursting around Anfield. I'm devoted about it. I've missed that song so much.
Yeah.
Oh, I still nearly break it out during every watch along, and I keep thinking, shit, no, he's not here anymore, man.
What's the song you miss most from a departed player?
Luis Suarez.
The Fernando Torres one.
Fernando Torres, Liverpool's number 9.
It was just a beautiful song. Go on. It was a beautiful song, wasn't it? It just, everything about it worked. Everything about it worked.
Yeah, there's some absolute belters. I mean, there's a good Irish connection to the Virgil van Dijk song. I know it's written from Salford, but it's a very Irish type of song, the Van Dijk song, and that's one I love for me. But the Fields of Anfield Road, for me, Steve, is the one, because I know it's still sung, I don't really miss it, but my wife's father's mate wrote that song. Pete St. John wrote the Fields of Athenry, so the Fields of Anfield Road, it just kind of feels like a little bit special to me. Like, and I've gone so far as I've even got the rights to use that song if I want to in any of our content, because I've been in contact with Pete. But that to me, it just reaffirms the Irish connection, and there is a great Irish connection with the city of Liverpool, like, and that song to me, the way it's been reworded, just always hits home. But Scouser Tommy's the most difficult one of all the songs you try and learn from the Liverpool songbook. Yeah, I still don't like the way Scouser Tommy sang. It sang too fast for my liking. It needs to be chilled a little bit.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed, Craig. I think you're not going to change that one now.
Yeah, it needs to be slowed down though. I don't. It is what it is. But right, lads, before we finish up, we've about 10 minutes to go. What do we want to talk about last few minutes? Any topics anybody wants to bring to the fore?
Well, did we really touch on James Milner? Did we really touch on his position at the moment? Because in that game, right, and here's the difference between a Liverpool right back and any other right back in the league and the job they have to fulfil for their team. A right back for Liverpool has to bomb up and down the pitch constantly, and this is why I give Trent a lot of slack when he's caught out of position because he's too high up the pitch. That's because he's being told to do that, and that's his role in our squad. That's why when you mentioned the point before, Craig, that Henderson on the right is much more effective, I could not agree more. It's literally what we missed in our system last season. The fact that why I love Milner is because he joined in 2015 and he came in as one of the greatest utility men you could ask in football, filled in at left back and whatnot. You look at Henderson right now, yes, he's a midfielder, but he does fill in the right back role at times. Last season he filled in at centre back. When the likes of Naby Keita and Curtis Jones bomb forwards up the pitch, Henderson is there to cover their space. Why? Because he's a great utility man, and I think Milner has a big part to play in developing Henderson's career as a leader as well. Anyway, Henderson filling in at that right back role, he does it because he's very solid at doing it. And we see the stats about Trent, creating chances and how important he is, and most passes made, that's just the first in every single category. You have to stick with that, in my opinion. Don't fix what isn't broken. Do you get what I'm saying? But to then trust, what is a 35-year-old man or 36-year-old man bombing up and down the wing 90 minutes ago, or however long it was, because I know we got subbed off against Manchester City. We were all shouting for James Milner to start, but I do think the tactics around that was it was kind of wrong, like what you said before, Craig, about Henderson and stuff.
They must have been overloaded. They must have been overloaded, didn't they? They saw that as being a really good avenue to attack, and it's not the first time. I remember going to Anfield 2 or 3 years ago when we played Palace at home and Milner got sent off. and because Wilfred Zaha just gave him an absolute runaround for however 65, 70 minutes, wherever it was that he was on. I'd probably see Joe Gomez. I'd rather Joe Gomez was in there, if I'm being completely honest.
Steve,
I think he's
just on that point. Steve, do you know what I want to say just on that point? Because you've just mentioned Joe Gomez. Someone's just said in the chat, you need to get a replacement, like the way we've got a replacement for Robbo.
I spotted that one as well, yeah.
With Tsimikas, he's stylistically very similar to Robbo. Different, don't get me wrong, but he goes forward,
very
he
similar.
puts good crosses in, and stylistically. So do you think, because Joe Gomez is not unlike Trent, if you put him right back, he's not doing the job that Trent is going to do. Do you get what I'm saying? You're probably looking at more of a Aaron Wan-Bissaka type right back.
James Milner, is he?
Of course, and this is why I wanted to bring up the question. Should it maybe, or Liverpool should maybe actually look into reinvesting into that position opposed to trying to accommodate with the players that we've already got?
I think the belief from within the club, Steve, seems to be that Conor Bradley is the next thing to come through at right back. And again, it's difficult to gauge these things because the toughest stage in any young lad's development is that step from the underage level right up. And Conor Bradley's been somebody who throughout his career has always been playing above his age bracket. And I wonder, is it still a little bit too early?
I didn't think he was great against Norwich, if I'm being honest. I think he did all right. I didn't think he did great. I mean, look, I haven't watched him massively, but, going off that game, it looked like he had a bit to go before he was ready to, like we said about Tsimikas, be an actual alternative, which is what you want, isn't it? You want someone to be an actual viable alternative, and he isn't that, and he's not going to be out for 2 or 3 years. If he gets there, it's going to be 2 or 3 years time, isn't it? And I think,
is there anything to be said for Neco then, Steve?
Well,
Steve, I know you look. Steve, I'm going to do this for you because I know that you're a lovely lad and you're going to try and say this in a nice way. Neco Williams just isn't Liverpool level.
I think you're probably right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't. I mean, a lot of players aren't. 99.99999% of footballers aren't. That's the way it is. And I'm sure if he leaves, he'll go on to have a great career somewhere else. You're probably right. I think probably is an area that we could do with strengthening because Trent's pretty reliable injury-wise, isn't he? But there is that drop-off that we've talked about.
How do you replicate Trent, though?
There was a really good point. I saw a piece in one of the papers last year, and somebody had written a piece about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain saying, could he do a job at right-back?
I just think you're doing too much. Maybe, but I just think you're doing way too.
He's got a good engine.
That he was going to be a false nine, then a midfield. I don't know.
I don't think it's a terrible thing. Whether or not he'd be up for it.
Wing back a few times on right hand
side.
Yeah,
he played wing back a fair bit, but that's why he left Arsenal, though, isn't it? Because he didn't want to do it.
It's just very Mr. Krabs vibes for me. Do you know what I mean? Proper cheapskate to do something like that.
Round pegs and square holes, isn't it?
Yeah, you just you see a hole in the roof and you just cover it with some tape. It's not a proper way to solve a hole.
What did we pay for Tsimikas, lads? What was Tsimikas' price tag?
No, 10.5. Yeah, just over 10. I think 10.5 or something. 10.8 or something. But yeah,
they can be got because I think back. Right, we're sitting here talking about Robbo, and we're talking about Tsimikas and saying, could they ever compete? Could anyone compete with Trent? I remember the conversations around would Trent be able to dislodge Kleiny at right back all those years ago.
Right back.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're looking at Robbo. And we're finally after getting a chance to see what Tsimikas is about now. So. That will up both their levels. A little bit of competition ups both their levels. And I think James made a very good point. I think it probably would be wise to go out there, try and spend 10, 12 million on a right back.
Yeah, but that's a really good point. You haven't got to spend 30 or 40 mil on a player that demands to come in, straight away and be a starter. Tsimikas has been a perfect signing, hasn't he, in that respect? It takes a bit of time to bed in, but once he has now, a good pre-season under his belt, and he looks like not too far away from being an actual viable alternative, decent option.
Yeah, and as I said, this is why.
Sorry, Craig, just dead fast. Like when it comes to our scouting team, And you look at the way we have recruited. No one knew Shimacas was. We were like, okay, right, so Costas, fine, okay, we'll take that signing, but we do need Thiago, and then Jota came in. Jota. Like, I know he's a more established Premier League player, but why are we getting Jota? Because at the time as well, we were linked with Adama Traore. Even Wolves had other wingers that probably many Liverpool fans would have taken over Diogo Jota. That's shown. Obviously, Liverpool knows something we don't, and rightly so, because they do this for a living. They're looking into players. So surely there is somebody at Minamino. Where did he come from? Do you know what I mean? Like, these type of players just... they'll know someone there that can accommodate back up, right back. It's just about going out there, showing the initiative and getting it.
You're stunned silence because I can't disagree with the words you're saying, mate. You know what I mean?
He talks sense, lad.
I'm just short of saying preach, mate, preach. That's all. Do you know what I mean?
Hello, praise to Jesus. You know what I mean? One of them ones.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm getting the fan out and just fanning myself down. Oh Lord! This has been an absolute blast, lads. I can't believe this hour has flown by already. And again, I want to welcome James in. Be great to have James as part of the family moving forward. Steve, as always, sheer brilliance, mate. You are the foil to our madness, as always. And as I said earlier on, Steve's link for Macmillan Cancer Support is in the description of the stream.
Definitely,
if you can support Steve in any way and the great work Macmillan are doing as well. James, welcome, mate. How was your first show?
First off, I want to thank you for so graciously obviously welcoming me to the show, but also the people as well. Honestly, to everyone who's welcomed me today, thank you so much. It means more than you think. I've had many kind messages about me and Craig doing content together. It was something that we had to get done, and the reception today has been lovely. You've made me feel like a superstar, so I appreciate it. And
you are a superstar. I don't think you know how good you are, young man.
Nice one, my mate. I really do appreciate that.
Absolute superstar,
means more
mate.
than you think. Legends.
That's, again, when we started this channel, this was the dream for us, that we were able to bring people in and out, help. You've got your own channel, of course, James Redmond TV. Make sure you get over to that. But I think bringing the best together in one place, even if it's for a couple of shows a week, and just showing the world that we've got all these different opinions. Yeah, we all work in our own areas, but we can come together and have a laugh and have a bit of fun. That's what it's all about.
100%. 100. We can still have admirations about other content creators. Like, one thing I admire about you, Craig, and this is not to turn into an arse-licking session or whatever, but
no, go on, mate, go on.
He'll take it all day. He'll take it. Nah,
I'll take it over shaving 250 pairs of balls anyway.
It's your work rate, mate. Your work rate is another level, and it's something to admire. So no, there's definitely things that we can take off of each other. It's better to help build people opposed to trying to just shut out people. And Craig, you've helped me a lot.
100%. Well
more
said.
than you
well
think.
said.
So well in, lads.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where to go with this. It's been so much fun. Really enjoyed chatting with James. Really enjoyed chatting with Steve, of course, as well. This will be a regular thing moving forward, so we hope that you enjoy it. Don't forget to check out James Redmond TV. Obviously, like and hit the sub button on here if you haven't. And Steve's information for the Macmillan Cancer Support is in the link below. You guys have been awesome as always. We'll be back real soon. Thank you to James. Thank you to Steve. Thank you to you guys for watching. Up the Reds.